Recording. So welcome to Shape the Trainer, the last workshop in the series. We're talking about optimizing virtual environments through engagement and some fantastic experiences and expertise that Sarah Stevens is going to share with us today. So really grateful for all of you joining us. I am confident. I've already learned some things even just by chatting with Sarah already. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to her and let you all know that it is being recorded. So there is a lot of content, she warned, and so you can have the opportunity to go back on the Shape YouTube if you want to review anything. So Sarah.
All right. Last Shape the Trainer session of the week. I know we don't want to be on Zoom any longer, but my goal for the next hour and 20 minutes, is that what it is? Yeah, I think, is to really keep the energy up, and hopefully it will not be painstaking and you'll learn a heck of a lot. So just as we begin, if you could take a peek at the slides that I'm sharing. Quick little introduction for me, and then I'm gonna let you all read that and add on. The chat is ongoing, keep that in mind. So if you can share in the chat if you're able or interested, your name, pronouns, what edge you bring to CSU. So that's like kind of what's the flair that you add to your title regarding like influence and impact. Instead of just doing like the human doing, this is my role at the university, this is more your human being element. So I will share mine. Sarah Stevens, she, her, hers pronouns, and my edge is I love to design and facilitate talent development trainings in as creative, intentional, inclusive, clever, and effective ways as possible. So I better hold up to that for the duration of this session. And what I do just at CSU is I work in the SLICE office, and I'm Senior Program Coordinator of Community Engagement and Student Staff Development. So I'm just going to give you a moment to think, how would you answer a question that I'm guessing not as many of you have been asked, at least not recently. So what is the edge you bring to CSU? All right, they're coming in. I like to give just a quick pause to not talk while people are thinking, because that's hard for me to type. But here's some folks in the room. So we got someone who loves training and they have decades of teaching and training experience. We have a behind the scenes connector with students in the room, a handshake detective, if you will. We got a good hugger, pre-COVID, of course, not currently. Someone who's genuinely interested in creating community. And this other person is into strategic thinking, observing. We've got a student leadership development person. Cool. All right, so keep those coming in. Keep them coming in. So this is actually called an unofficial start. I can't really do an unofficial start because I'm a part of a conference, but if I were just leading a facilitation or I had full reins, just know that you can have this type of unofficial activity going while folks enter into the space. So just, you'll see me go back and forth. That's the whole point of today, this afternoon. So optimizing online engagement and virtual team building. Let's actually do a true official start now. Keep those chats coming in. If you have attended any sort of Shape the Trainer so far, or anything that Emily's really led, you've probably seen this lovely screenshot before that I borrowed from a previous session I attended, and I just look great in that upper right-hand corner there. But a couple things to keep in mind on your for Zoom. You have the unmute option in the bottom left corner. You can stop your video at any time, toggle between participants to see who's in the Zoom room. That chat feature is always there for you, and you can do reactions with some fun thumbs up and little hand shaking options. Okay, I gotta get my extra stuff out of here. Let's see here. So we're gonna actually do a little bit extra Zoom where I don't think I hope that at least one of these things is new to you. So if you can make sure that you're in gallery view, I'm not able to do this as well. I can only see a few of you in there. But if you can go to gallery view, I'm going to demonstrate a few things that could be useful that you can have folks that are going to be on Zoom calls with you if you're facilitating as well. So we're first going to do the Zoom high five. So if you're able, if your video is on, you're going to high five your neighbors up and down in that Zoom screen. Yeah, get it? Okay, lovely. That's called Zoom high five. All right, next we got ASL, American Sign Language, or Australian Sign Language as well. Applause. So I'm trying to toggle between screens here. Okay, get your hands up, wave them around. Yes. So you can do this at any point. Cool. All right, give us a hand. So this one I just got from an awesome webinar I attended. So instead of saying like, yeah, I can do this and get off mute and kind of change the discourse of the presentation, you're going to take your hand and go toward your camera. And so this is saying like, yeah, I'll volunteer. I can give a hand. So this is giving a hand. Cool, solid. And then exaggerated reaction. So this is another one I learned, is that when you're in a virtual space, you really do need to really give emphasis to your nonverbals. And so some of the ones I've learned that could be some cultural norms that we could do for today's session is, oh yeah, that was really heartfelt, like really putting the hands on the chest. Oh yes, very heartfelt. Or I'm hard of hearing, and so maybe I might be like doing the whole hand around the ear, trying to get somebody to give me some attention that I need to hear more. You can also interrupt me at any point if you miss something, and we also have chat moderators, just FYI. But yeah, big exaggeration will actually help to be able to connect with your videos on. All right, let's keep it going. Okay, so we're gonna do Mentimeter. This is Emily's personal favorite, Rachel's too. Just could not finish up Shape the Trainer without a lovely session of mobile learning. So what I'm asking for you folks to do is, if you could go to menti.com, you can do it on your computer, phone, tablet, whatever you wish. You're gonna type in this code, 35, 85, and 66. I apologize. I don't know if subtitles were on, but now they are. So we're moving, and sorry about that. Okay, so menti.com. And I have a series of this or that questions for you to fill out. It is anonymous. All right. Are folks doing all right? If you have a question, you can always put your hand on the screen, but seems like I see some movement for Mentimeter. So which do you most prefer, mountains or beach? You can only pick one, mountains or beach. I don't oh, okay, 25 participants. Okay, so we got about 18, maybe a few more. Mountains, beach, mountains, beach. All right, one final beach person. We're gonna keep it going. Next we have, do you prefer eating in at a restaurant or taking out food to go? So this might be a little bit pre-COVID, I understand, but maybe COVID has shifted your mentality. So taking out food, eating in at a restaurant. Cool, cool. We will get back to these numbers, I assure you, in a moment. All right, nearly 20. Yep, 20 folks. We're going to keep it going. You can keep submitting. Next up, which do you most prefer? Oops, sorry. Which do you most prefer? Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Oh gosh, where'd the other two go? What was it? No social media at all, and good old Facebook. What's your preference? You could only have one right now. All right, all right. My new favorite TikTok is holding on in there just a little bit. We got some people in the room, yes. That is too much math for me to do. So that sort of looks like 20-ish, so we're gonna keep it going. All right. So for some reason, the mouse on my screen has disappeared, so I'm gonna have to do this from memory. Do you wanna be the star player on a losing team or a benched player on a winning team? What's your preference? Star player or bench player? All right, wow. So far more on the winning team bench player side. Cool, cool. Oh, all right. Fascinating. I just did this with a bunch of outdoor ed instructors and we all wanted to be star players. So higher ed, I guess we're a little bit different. Okay, let's keep it going. All right, next one. In terms of your money spending or saving practices, do you prefer saving money or do you prefer spending money? All right, toggling back and forth. Saving is taking very much the lead. All right, all right. Okay, okay. I think there is one more. If you could have a preference, would you rather be an elephant in the room or a fish out of water? Final choices, final choices. The fish is always in the lead. I don't know what it is about that elephant. Okay. Oh, somebody heard me. Okay, we got an even tie. Who's gonna break it? Is the elephant gonna take it? Maybe, maybe. All right, let's just leave it at that. Next slide. Okay, so who's in your Zoom room today? I wanted to utilize this and that scenarios preference activity for you, just so you can get a sense of kind of who's in your community. So I'm just gonna go back here for a second. We are a little bit more beach loving, but still mountains are of some preference group. We would prefer eating it in a restaurant, likely because we can't right now, but some of us are cool with taking food out either way. Let's see, I still don't have a mouse, so I'm guessing that's Instagram. Instagram is pretty much a little bit cooler right now than Facebook. Obviously some generational differences, keeping that in mind. We are a group that rather be a bench player on a losing bench player on a winning team. Nobody chose that option, bench player on a losing team, right? Sorry. Let's keep it going. And we do prefer saving money in this group, and we apparently like elephants and fish just the same. So that's kind of who's in the room today. All right, so I would like you to generate maybe how else you could use this or that model or scenarios and preferences model by coming up with a type of question that you think would be relevant to students or relevant to the professional career staff that you supervise or whomever you might be leading team building with. So that's what I'm looking for. Throw out some different questions that could be considered and utilized in this activity. Ooh, crumple or fold toilet paper. Classic. Is that yours, Nancy? I saw a giggle there. Maybe. No, you just like it. You like it. Okay. Netflix, Hulu, or Disney Plus. Nobody cares about Amazon Prime. I understand. Working with students one-on-one, facilitating small group, no doubt. Peanut butter, jelly, or chunky smoothie. Oh, yep. You're ahead of me. Okay, dogs, cats. Couple more. Think really outside the box. Something that's gonna just crack us up, but is inclusive. When is it appropriate to walk a customer to a room? Sweet or savory? Which do you prefer? Rams or Buffs? Okay, let's leave it at that. Go Rams. Let's keep going. I don't know if that was Emily's. Just kidding. Okay. Cool. I wanted to show you a few different ways that you can use Mentimeter. There's a ton of cool graphs. I love the different options there. And then you can use it with these word bubbles and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and head back to the
Sarah, we couldn't see any of that Mentimeter.
Oh.
So I'm just wondering if maybe you can toggle back so folks can see the graphs as they went, because I bet they're super cool.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I lost my mouse about 10 minutes ago, so I'm not sure what is going on. Just bear with me here for a moment. Okay. Oh.
Mine does that on Google Chrome. I don't know if that helps does it for anyone. but my mouse totally like goes away sometimes on Google Chrome.
I already go. Oh, it's back.
Second that.
We're good. We're good. Sorry about that. You can see my thinking face where my mom told me I'm going to get early wrinkles. All right. Can
Great.
you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Please interrupt her a little bit earlier so I can not just talk at you. So this is an example of the word bubbles. To see that even amount, elephant in the room, fish in the water, saving money, spending money. Hopefully on your screen, you're able to see some of the movement. Yeah, it looks like Pamela saw that. But yeah, the cool thing about Mentimeter is you can make it your own and have your own theme. Cool. Thanks for bringing
Sarah.
that up, Emily. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the presentation. Do we see connection before content real quick before we continue on? Solid. Okay. So connection before content, that's what we just did. It was an icebreaker, but really we're trying to learn who's in the room, have some sense of community, make some purposeful connections well before I get into what we're actually covering for the day. And I'm guessing a lot of you have been to some sort of webinar presentation since we have moved online since March, where we just get to the topics, here's the forecast, this is what we're gonna do, and it's just content laden. And so I wanted to show you a different approach. Okay, so here's what you could either have as the forecast, roadmap, blueprint, lots of different names for it. So I'm gonna give you a quick overview, background of a little bit of my career, inspiration I have, and then a big ask I have of you all. Groundwork, we're going to talk about enhancing online engagement, varying virtual learning technologies and delivery methods. And then finally, we're going to do some virtual team building at the end for those who are wishing to volunteer. And then those who don't want to volunteer can still very much observe and still in a way participate, but just not at the same level. All right, so part one. I'm just going to give you some real quick context. Some of you in the room I definitely know, and others I have not met yet. And so just for you to know a bit about me, I've been interested in either adventure learning or service learning pretty much since I entered college at CSU. I started in 2006, and I did start in art education. And yes, I did major in art, but I didn't really stick with education in my academic side. Instead, I really sought it out either working for the key service community or being an alt break leader, or then eventually I worked at the CSU Mountain campus. And I worked in ropes courses for so long, I was drawn to University of New Hampshire, actually to be a hall director, but I worked at their challenge course, which was pretty darn esteemed. And New England is really well known for adventure learning and has a lot of organizations around experiential education. And so now, pretty much since 2016, since I moved back to CSU and I've been working full time at CSU, unfortunately, right when I moved back in 2015, the ropes course that used to be over by the Hilton was taken down. And so I have to find other ways to do team building and talent development and community building in not a setting that I was in, a little bit different of a setting. I have my student affairs degree, and so that's kind of how I'm entering into this space. So you're going to hear a lot of concepts that are a little bit more not in the traditional student affairs or higher education for resources and all that. Okay, so my usual inspiration, I love Association of Experiential Education. It's actually a very affordable membership. I just got my membership again yesterday. It was only $60, so definitely accessible. Lots of free webinars, and that's where I got very connected to consultants and educators in this experiential learning field, and that's where I'm getting a lot of my content from today. But I also have my own background and experiences. Association of Talent Development is another association I'm a part of to really being mindful about talent in the workplace, and so you'll see those elements woven in. I'm MBTI certified, and I also have Clifton Strength certification, and so I'm seeing every day Gallup is sending something about current information regarding the online climate and how to navigate that in engaging ways, and so that's where I'm pulling a lot of resources from. And then finally, some podcasts. Adam Grant's Work Life podcast is one of my favorites. I'm just trying to absorb information, whether it's industrial org psychology, positive psychology, that lately is really specific to the virtual world. So honestly, this is just a sum of the ones that I have been looking at lately. And Again, I don't have a mouse, so I'm not sure what's going on with my screen. Could somebody read the read the text in the bottom right corner, please? Come off mute and go ahead and read those 3 bullet points.
Sarah, I'll help you out.
Thank you, Pamela.
You bet. So number 1 is break the script. Number 2 is boost sensory appeal. And number 3 is find ways to include joyful observation.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's from Lisa Hunt. She works over at High Five, which is out in New England as well. And I honestly think that could not be a better condensed summary of what we really should be aiming for in virtual delivery right now. And so I wanted to bring that up, and hopefully there are elements of joy and there's a sensory appeal and you have that excitement that is different than the norm, and that's how I hope to keep you engaged this afternoon. All right, so here's my ask. There's 3 ways for you to participate today. So I want you to holistically absorb information. So my ask is that you toggle back and forth between what I'm sharing on the screen, but also my face, because there's going to be times that I'm demonstrating the Zoom high five, or there's other things that I'm doing that on my screen has like some perks to actually look at. And so do be mindful. There's a lot of different content and you'll get the PowerPoint afterward, but I just want to try to I kind of want to oversaturate you, and you can choose and pick out what works for you. So that's ruthlessly misinterpret. So you're going to ruthlessly misinterpret whatever I throw at you that works best for your community and for your programs, because that's what we all do. The best of us that are training and facilitation and educators, we get all this information from others. So that's what I hope you do. And then you're going to see reflection riffs mentioned often. So riff off. There's going to be moments that I ask for you to do a little bit of reflection where you're either typing into chat or you're speaking out loud, and there's probably more in there than we have time for, so I'll let you know which ones we're going to actually do. But you'll see moments that you will have to take what's on screen, quickly process it, and then think about how you're going to apply it. All right, back to that toggling. So historically observing, I am curious, what do you notice here on the screen? So on the left, I'm pointing up to the same image that's on the right. And for those of you who can see the screen, I'm asking if you could either come off of mute, and it is okay, be bold today, be vulnerable. This is the last shape session. Don't hold back. If you're here for this session, I'm guessing that you can take that leap and maybe get off mute here and there. So what do you notice on screen? I'm curious, what do you think's been utilized here? You can also type in the chat.
Picture.
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it wasn't Michael. Again, I don't have my mouse, so I'm trying to be able to fix the screen. Sorry about that.
So we have a few folks coming in the chat. Do you want me to read those out,
Yes,
Sarah?
please. Yeah.
All right, so Nancy shared physical cues, facial and pointing. And Pamela shared screen within a screen, which I would add within a screen. And is it a photo?
I also heard Michael say that you might not have said, like, picture. Michael, is that what you were trying to say? And I can unmute you too.
Yeah, it was 2 pictures. Yeah, 2 pictures.
Awesome. So yeah, so there's a lot going on here. So I did screenshots. I used the whiteboard feature on Zoom. I made myself be a little goofy and take myself less seriously. So I'm doing some observational learning here. Hopefully if you see that I'm willing to be vulnerable, you'll be a little bit more vulnerable with me moving forward. I see Alicia Zmuda is in the room, so maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I tried my best to go to accessibility.colostate.edu and tried to have good colors on the screen for visuals. So blue and red might work. Yes, I got a thumbs up. Okay. So cool. This is a way you can be holistically absorbing. There's text on screen. You're getting feedback from people in the participants. There's a lot going on. So that's what I'm asking for you to do. Oh boy. Now my screen. I got a new computer and you would have thought it could handle all this, and it is not cooperating. So you get to see my struggle face just for a little bit longer. All right. Hey, Emily, since you have co-host, can you by chance maybe push the screen forward?
Push it forward, like
the
in
next
the
screen.
presentation. Oh, you did it.
Okay, solid. Okay.
There we go.
Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, thanks all. All right, so another way you can participate, there's 3 types of participants that you can have in a virtual presentation. So the first is critic, which is a little bit more on the negative side. Consumer is a bit more passive. And then contributor, which is where I'm actually hoping a lot of you, especially those who are gonna hopefully volunteer in the end, would be able to do today. So those are ways that you can kind of frame it for your future participants. All right, so we're gonna do the 20-20-20 activity. So what I need you all to do, just to take a little quick break, is that for every 20 minutes, apparently, you should be taking a 20-second break and focusing your eyes on something that's at least 20 feet away. So I want you to break from the screen because you probably have a bit of virtual fatigue. And as every optometrist would probably say out there, use the 20-20-20 rule. So if you need to turn off your screen, that's fine, but go ahead and do that for 20 seconds while I try to figure out my mouse. Great. All righty. So a couple other things about eyes, just to keep in mind. So I like the 20-20-20 rule, especially in preparing for a virtual presentation, because I'm guessing your life is a little bit trickier right now if you're new to this online platform. And so you've probably already been looking at the screen plenty before you give your presentation. So all day today, I actually set a timer for 20 minutes and I made sure that I gave myself this 20-20-20. And I feel a lot better now than having not utilized this activity before for myself as the facilitator. And then you can integrate it in for your participants. A couple other things about eye level. You want to be mindful, just as you would in an in-person facilitation. If you're standing up and looking down at your computer, this is a power dynamic that I'm looking down at you. So keeping in mind that you need to try to have eye level to wherever the computer is on your screen. And then for lighting, you want you want to look into the window or into the light. So keep that in mind. All right, part 2. Other things to keep I'm going to keep saying keep in mind. I'm going to change up my language there. Sorry about that. Every 21 minutes, you should switch the content. So I don't think in person I would have thought of this that much, but virtually you really need to keep the folks that are in your Zoom room focused. And when I say Zoom room, it could be Teams, it could be Google Meet. There's so many different variations. And I didn't go to the Generation Z session right before, though I wanted to, but I looked up how often you should switch content for Gen Zers, and countless websites said that their attention span is 12 to 21 seconds long. But for adult learners, we can probably continue on for about 21 minutes. So that might not be true. I'm not saying you should obviously change your content every 21 seconds, but think of how each slide is presented, or each little micro element of your presentation kind of keeps the engagement going, depending on who your audience is. All right, so we're going to talk about online engagement. We're going to do a micro moment here. So I'm asking just for 2 volunteers. I'll give you the content first, and then if you want to volunteer, you're going to give me a hand by putting your hand in front of your camera. All right? So the micro moment I'm looking for is who has a bad Zoom or Teams experience they're willing to share. And you're going to frame it as, this summer, I either noticed, saw, did, heard, etc. Or this summer, one time, this happened. So if you are willing to be one of my 2 volunteers to share, again, give me a hand. Now that I have my mouse back, I should be able to see people. Okay. Emily, you're giving me a hand?
No, that's Nancy.
Oh, Nancy. Okay. Yeah. Go for it, Nancy.
Okay, this summer, one time
Okay,
I was.
hold on a second. Pause.
Okay.
If nobody, so make sure that you're in speaker view. Everyone should see Nancy on screen. And if not, just know as a facilitator, you can actually go to participants and you can spotlight a video. So you can actually put Nancy on everyone's screens. Does everyone see Nancy now?
Yep.
Thumbs up. All right, Nancy, if you don't mind being a little vulnerable, thanks for sharing.
Such a scary thought. So, okay, this summer, one time I was in a Zoom meeting that went for over an hour, no break, no visuals. It was very monotonous.
Thank you for sharing. Wow. Okay. Another volunteer, give me a hand. And whomever, if Rachel and Emily can look, again, the mouse is gone. Not sure.
I can
All right,
give one.
Emily, go for it. I'll spotlight you. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. One time this summer, I didn't mute myself when I took a break and was loving on my partner so everyone could hear in the meeting. I don't know if I framed that right.
Thank you for being vulnerable and flipping it a little for an example. I heard somebody, one of the webinars I was on, someone heard someone go to the restroom. So that was another one to just keep in mind. Yeah, thank you for this little micro moment. So micro moments are cool on Zoom, Teams, where you can eliminate all the others in a way and just focus in on that one person, or you could put 2 folks on the screen. So it's a little bit more intimate. All right, so we're gonna cover 2 group development theories real quick. So the first one is observational social learning theory. I learned this working at the CSU Mountain Campus Ropes course. Pat Rastel used to be the director. He loves this theory. So I'm gonna bring it in because I think it's super relevant for online engagement. So what it means is that essentially if you see someone that is a peer to you, they don't have a higher title, they're not older than you, they're not, quote, in your eyes, better than you, more experienced than you. If they are of equal, similar to experience, if they do something awesome, if they do something vulnerable, if they take initiative, I likely will do the same. But if I see a leader do it, or if I'm in a team building situation and the first talker always to answer the hard questions is a full-time staff member versus a student staff member, then I might not, because I still see them in a different light. I see them as an expert, they're all knowing, I might not have something to contribute. I think this is huge because think of, especially when you want to have student staff, full-time staff in a training, upcoming training online this year, summer, fall, and everybody's videos are off. If your video's off, their video is gonna be off. If you're not willing to be vulnerable, they're not willing to be vulnerable. And so there's so many different cues that you make as a facilitator, as co-hosts, or other full-time staff, even if they're not facilitating what you do on screen, students are copying in a way. They want to, in a way, be you, emulate you. And so be very mindful of that. The second one is the concept of play. So the slicers in the room are probably tired of hearing about play, but I think it's super vital, again, for online engagement. You gotta find ways to be spontaneous. You have to bring in guttural laughter. We were missing that in Slice. I think, for me, I was missing it. Everyone was on mute, and we're a bunch of weird, lovely people, and we just didn't have that same, there wasn't that same organic connection. And so I think we have to find ways to intentionally bring it in, where in person, we don't have to necessarily do that. So the cool thing about play, it boosts belonging, it's nourishing, joyful, it's universal. Practically any culture in the world has some element of play tied in. It's innate, and empathy is so biological. Even if you don't think you're an empathetic person, you still can have that connection through play. And I think the big part, if you're trying to build community and do team building virtually this year, is that a family that apparently plays together stays together. Definitely tacky, but it's an easy one to remember. So just as an example on the left, this is our fall training, CSU Mountain Campus. We were up there, lots of elements of play. We just did a little race of sorts. And on the right, that's our attempt at doing some staff appreciation song. I did not get consent to use this image, but I think it might be all right to show that Slice can play a little bit. So you have to find a way to kind of make it work for you. All right, here's some other ones to keep in mind. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. So like I said, vulnerability. So if you're in an elevator, think of the last time you were in an elevator and somebody gets in the elevator and you might have done something like this. Like a little bit of a smile, looking down at the ground. You're not willing to bare your teeth. I don't mean like intensely bare your teeth, but it is said that if you are willing to show your teeth a little bit, you can give more expression, and so you have that vulnerability. So you have to find ways to have authenticity online. Cater to senses. So I thought it'd be fun. You could do like a silent disco for an activity, or maybe meditative eating, something that's different than just sound and visuals. Digital proficiency, I've needed to learn that. I've learned that you can't have VPN client on and Teams. It doesn't work very well. You need to have local files to show a video if your Wi-Fi sucks and you need to have a better connection. There's just so many different things. Learning TikTok to be a little bit cooler with the Gen Zers and bring it into training, that might give you an advantage this year. Keeping in mind inclusive visuals, I really thought about this presentation. I don't have stock photos in here, lots of different identities, not trying to tokenize one over the other. And then visual microaggressions, being mindful of my nonverbals and what my hands are doing or what I'm saying. There's a lot of things there's an extra layer of inclusivity that needs to be considered online. And I think a lot of us are just new to it and novice to it and haven't really considered it yet. You need to own your newness. There might be someone on this call that is just awesome at online engagement and should be doing this presentation, but I'm guessing most of us, like myself, I had such a huge learning curve. So be cool, ask for feedback, and then just glean whatever you can. And then very graphic. So I use Slide Carnival. I wasn't familiar with it. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but it is super creative. I have 2 art degrees, and I rather use Slide Carnival and get legit PowerPoints than make them myself. So Canva, there's a lot of different ways that you can add layers in to vary your graphics. Ground rules, especially if you've seen Emily do presentations, you're gonna have principles of community, but all of us should. Career Center does a good job with this too. You can always lean on university expectations. The more a message is repeated, it's remembered. And so keeping in mind, I'm presenting it on a tablet look, and so this visual is relevant. And so it's engaging, it's relevant. Just try to think of how you present ground rules in new ways with your presentation materials. Some other things to do is to consider time. We've talked a lot about asynchronous and synchronous. What that really means is mix and match something that was created ahead of time that could be accessed in people's own time or is in real time. And I'll show you a few of those examples in a moment. You want to respect their time. So what's their location? Are they not even in a Colorado Mountain time zone? Where are they elsewhere? Wi-Fi access, apparently 10 a.m. is the sweet spot for adult learners. It's the best time to have a 10 to 11 hour long facilitation proven by Gallup. But I don't know about Gen Zers if they want the 10 a.m. slot or not. To be good at respecting your participants' time, you have to be good at watching your own time. So I don't have a watch, but I have my dad's old school clock here. It is really good to have more than your phone and more than something you have to toggle on your computer to actually figure out what time it is so you're thoughtful and you stay on time. When you start going over, if you're like Nancy, you don't have visuals and you've gone even an hour over, you're already like pretty blah presentation, that is, people start talking and they start getting resentful. So be respectful to that. I heard about time optimism recently. I think that might be me. Being mindful to not pack so much in. So here's a cool few formulas that might help you out. You want to plan for 3/4 of your content in whatever your time span is, because most likely you will go over. You also want to give 4 hours of whatever to 1 hour of whatever. So if your session is 1 hour long, you at least need to actually give 4 hours of preparation, which is honestly pretty shocking. And for me, it's at least 6 hours. That's how slow and detailed I am. So learn what it is for you and then factor that in when you do your presentations. And to quote Jen Johnson, who works in Slice, less is more. So though I'm giving you a lot of content for today, keeping that in mind, especially for virtual. For Slice this fall, normally we would do like a 9 to 5 full weeks worth of training. And right now I'm considering maybe 3 hours max, possibly just 2 hours a day. And so really trying to limit the content that you give. And then lean on a co-host. If it wasn't for Emily and Rachel and my lack of mouse, we would have wasted even more time. So they're gonna help you speed up your process. All right, other things to keep in mind is you can record. We're not gonna do a riff reflection. We'll do some other ones in a moment. There are benefits to recording and not. If someone can't make it or they legitimately have any sort of conflict or they have COVID or something quite awful, don't shame them, whatever you do, and then just send out your recording and they can watch it on their own time if and when able. But recordings do not go into breakout rooms, and those are intimate spaces. And so that would be a time that a recording wouldn't make sense, but Zoom doesn't do it anyway. All right, on to learning technologies. Okay, so fun fact, at least every 7 minutes you need to add engagement. So I think I've gone over till maybe like 10 minutes, so I apologize. But we're going to do what's called Jamboard. So hopefully you can go to any sort of web browser, and I will stop my screen sharing and throw in the link. And what you're gonna do is answer a variety of prompts, and I will go back to sharing my screen as well, but just kind of bear with me as we go through this process. Oops, don't look at that. Gotta get my mouse back, okay. All right.
Hey, Sarah, I got it.
Oh, thanks, because you're a good co-host. Thank you for doing that, solid. I will share my screen again, yes. All righty, can you see the map?
I think that
I don't
we
have
need
access.
sharing permission. Yeah, access.
Oh, solid. I can do that real quick. No.
Yeah.
Did that work?
I'm gonna refresh it. Yep, it worked.
Are you just editors or viewers, or can you edit as well?
It looks like we can just view it.
Okay, I switched
I'm
it.
gonna
Now you
refresh
should
again.
be able to edit it.
Yep, can edit
A
now.
good real world example of how to prepare your items before you do engaging virtual presentations. Okay, so this is Jamboard. What you're gonna see on the left is there's options for a pen. You can add sticky notes. What I'm hoping in your little anonymous unicorn, badger, longhorn selves is that if you're willing, you can put your name on your sticky note. If you're unwilling, no worries at all. Just put the location. But this can give you an example of how you can use a different media to be able to interact and learn a bit about each other in the room. So if you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you be despite COVID, money, limiting factors? And so as you add that sticky note, you can actually go in. So I'm just gonna use the example with the Puerto Rico one. You can make it smaller and you can sort of bring it over to where Puerto Rico is. You can only make it so tiny, but you're welcome to add in, type, place. So go ahead and do that for a moment. Solid. Italy eating all the food, Switzerland, Vegas, all over South America. Paraguay, speaking Spanish with my in-laws. Spain, Thailand. Whoops. The anonymous skunk joined and all of the posted notes disappeared. That is all right. We're just gonna keep it coming. Italy, eating all the food. Thanks, Courtney, for adding the name and being a little vulnerable there. Disney World. All right, so we're gonna move on to another slide just so you can see how this works. So the next one is what country is most intriguing to you? Don't worry about participating. I'm just gonna show you this. We're gonna go to the third slide, but that's another question you could ask. And then this last question I have for you is what considerations should you make when using maps in virtual team building? So I'm curious what your thoughts are. What do you see on the screen? Why do you see two countries inside of each other? Maybe what was the reason I chose this map? What would you consider? Go ahead and start adding concepts and ideas here.
Hey, while folks are adding that, Nancy has the question of not sure how to get the pen or sticky note. Can you talk about the place on the left side of the screen, Sarah?
Yeah, so you're asking about sticky note, Nancy? Okay, yeah, the sticky note is this square with the little flipped up option there, and then up would pop this image, and you can change the colors around. Blue and pink, I think, are a little bit easier on the eyes, and you can type it in and add. I know all of you can see each other too, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, I'll try to collapse it. All right. What considerations should you make when using maps in virtual team building? All right, keep it coming. I'm gonna go for 20 more seconds, try to get it in, and then I'll go ahead and read out. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can keep adding. I'm just going to read a few of these. So if possible, maybe the names and locations, definitely. Is it accurate? Actual land size and comparison. So if you start seeing the same thing on the board, you can kind of start to put them together. Which countries you're focusing on or not. Maybe where you're hovering over. Maybe if I was just over North America repeatedly or the US, I'd feel a little US centric. Other things to realize is this is called the Mercator projection versus true size of countries. And so Mercator map is going to show the US and North America much bigger than a lot of other countries and make Africa and Asia look much smaller. But in fact, Australia and the US is about the same size on a true actual size map. And so there's some things of consideration to consider there, because if you have a globe, there's about 5 different emojis on an iPhone of the different perspective of the globe. And depending on which one you choose, you might be actually accentuating or again, making it a bit more US centric. Let's see, let's see, detail. Yeah, how detailed it needs to be. I thought of putting names on there and it got really, really hard to read. But those are some things to keep in mind. Also asking folks, where are you from might not be the best question to ask. you could frame it as, where do you call home? But even home could be a sensitive subject. So I'd be really cautious with your questions, especially if you have folks in the room that maybe they're undocumented and they don't want to talk about that and out themselves all of a sudden, or maybe they're global nomads or third culture kids and they have several different places they'd call home, and then they have to get into a whole conversation about it. So be mindful of how you use maps, but also it's really cool that you could pinpoint different things and it'll get to a lot of layers of getting to know folks. So, all right, we are going to head back to the presentation. Can you see Jamboard on your screen? Maybe if I can get some thumbs up here of just an example. Okay, so that's Jamboard. It's free, interactive. You got that experience. That's with Google, the G Suite series. So that's the cool thing about Jamboard. There's another version called Mural that's for pay, but it does offer a lot more options. Mentimeter we talked about already. That was that first one we did, free. There's a pro version, which we have, that I was utilizing. It's pretty easy to make, and I think it's a bit more versatile than the poll options you could get maybe from like Zoom, Teams, or even GroupMe. And it's mobile learning. And I know that we're not necessarily always too pumped about students really utilizing phones in a session, training, whatnot, but there is actually a lot of value in mobile learning, and it's really the future, quite honestly. And so I want you to go into that chat option, and if you can just riff off for a moment, why do you think mobile learning and team building with a cell phone, how will that actually be a benefit to you if you were to utilize it this year? So go ahead into the chat and add on there. And while that's happening, I love heart homes. Thanks for the addition, Emily. That's awesome. All right, so Michael Mars says provide flexibility, staying connected while keeping people safe. Yes, it's their own prop. You're not touching a variety of used items already. Quick response only takes a few seconds. Thanks, Nancy. Gen Z is the first generation that's been connected from the start. Yes, they came out of the womb, as Alicia said. I added that womb part. Oh, do like a scavenger hunt, adds mobility. Yeah, like the Pokemon Go. You could even do that. I heard about that recently. That'd be fun. It's still in existence, apparently. Allows for participation by those who don't like to draw attention to themselves. So yeah, it's introvert friendly, and a lot of the software out there is very anonymous, and you can choose to make it not, but you can set those guidelines. Awesome. So that's a great example of how riff-off reflection would work. All right, my favorite. Can you see this RAM? No?
You still see the Jamboard.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sorry about that. Okay, thanks all. Okay, so Movely, this is giving credit to Rachel in the room who introduced me, though I had to learn on my own and wish I could have got her version of training. I made a Movely, bear with me, but this will give you a little teaser of the silliness you can add, or play you can add, and vulnerability you can add to a team building session.
Fight on, you stalwart Ram team, on to the goal. Tear the Buffalo's line asunder, as down the field we thunder. Knights of the green and gold, fight with all your might. Fight on, you stalwart Ram team, fight, 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 go Rams!
Give it up for some applause if you think I did decent, maybe. Oh.
My favorite, Sarah, is that I know you uploaded it to YouTube. Oh, and there's the closed captioning, which is really good on YouTube. But the ones below were really inaccurate, comical. So
Yes, actually, that's a great observation. I will turn the sound off, but yeah, you'll notice when you put the CC on, you do it again with CC on.
Team, on to the go.
Sorry about that. It lines up so much better. Maybe it's because the closed captioning can't hear anything because I turned off my awful singing music. But yeah, wanted to go ahead and show you that my recommendation is to add closed captioning to your YouTube versus letting PowerPoint interpret your YouTube video. It had a lot of words that were incredibly incorrect. And as someone who's hard of hearing, I know for a fact it was very wrong. So it made no sense and I didn't get any value out of it. So something to realize. So Movely, let's talk about that. It's free. There's a pro version. It is creative. It's specific. You can make it really specific to CSU. It's fun. There's some pretty quick onboarding, but it takes forever, and I'm pretty sure it almost killed my computer. So there are some drawbacks to using Movely, but it's a cool feature, and maybe if you have a desktop, it might be a little easier to use. All right, now what learning technology rhymes with room, womb, tomb, vroom? Go ahead and get off mute or put it in the chat. What are we thinking here?
Zoom.
Zoom? Maybe? That's what people are thinking. Zoom, yeah. So actually it's called Loom. Psych, I got you there. So we're gonna talk about Loom first and then we'll get our way over to Zoom. I just learned about Loom. This is, it has a free EDU version, which is really cool, and it's indefinitely free. They realized with COVID, they needed to make their services available. But I learned some things after I did all this work on it that there's maybe some perks to upgrade your subscription. But you can record your own screen. And so it's a way to convey expression through convenient messaging. And there's a lot of ways to do emojis and interaction and chat where YouTube doesn't have. So I'm actually a fan of Loom. I just have to figure it out some more. So the guy on the left there, Chad Littlefield, he's where I get a lot of my webinar content from. He's a part of We and Me. He created it where you go right in at minute or second 25 and you add an emoji and then you give your comments to the question he proposed. And that's pretty cool. That's a cool way of integrating video. But I learned after putting all my effort in that there's no way to add closed captioning unless you upgrade. So there are some drawbacks, but I'm just gonna give you a teaser of what Loom looks like actually with Zoom. And then I'll send out a YouTube of the folks that are here today, and Emily can add it to Shape's website later. I'll actually have a YouTube video that has closed captioning on it for this video. It's just something I didn't anticipate with time. So here is an example.
Welcome to your Zoom tutorial as a facilitator with Zoom Pro. I'm going to show you a few different techniques that I think are pretty cool that'll work well for the CSU community. So let's go ahead and get started. When you're in the mute area down in the bottom left corner, some things that you can do here that I think are worthwhile is you can actually switch your own audio to phone, which I learned from Emily Ambrose. She suggested it because it allows for more stability than maybe a Wi-Fi connection. You can also, at the stop video section, you can add a virtual background, but keep in mind that as a facilitator, looking like a chameleon with wallpaper might not be the best way to engage your participants, so use it sparingly or maybe as a fun activity. Moving on over to participants. So a few things you can do here. You can add a co-host.
So that kind of gives you an example of how you can use Loom with Zoom, because Zoom doesn't have the feature of if you're trying to demo what Zoom is to maybe somebody who has to facilitate in your office, or if you're trying to show the backstage pass view of Zoom, you can't actually record it through Zoom. So those are just some extras to add on there. Oops, let's not do that. Okay, so a few words about closed captioning real quick. So as I mentioned, I identify as a hard of hearing person. I am absolutely no expert, and I tried my darndest, and there's so much out there. And there are experts in the room. I never got to go to Alicia and Joe's session, so sorry in the past, but I know that you all have legit content. And that's the thing, is there is a lot of resources at CSU that can help you get there with making your presentations way more inclusive. And here's just some that I came up with for myself that works well for me. So have backup options. So actually put closed captioning into your YouTube videos. If you're making them, don't just expect PowerPoint to do well. Try not to cover your mouth. People do read lips, and so that's going to be distracting. Customization is care. If you do auto closed captioning on YouTube, it will not work out well, and they think Lori Student Center is a very different word. Update your KSAs, so knowledge, skills, abilities related to giving inclusive presentations. And so that's an area that I definitely plan to explore more of, because I know I only scraped the surface of it. Utilizing free technology, there's all sorts of third-party options for closed captioning in Zoom, but PowerPoint has this cool workaround, and that's what we've been trying to do today. Or chat with a friend over in Student Disability Center. They might have some legit resources. So just some things to think about. Hopefully you got something there. This website was really helpful. I think it's accessibility.colostate.edu among so many other options. All right, so what we're gonna do, as I look at time, we are going to continue on, but I want you to start adding as we go other learning technologies in the chat or delivery methods that you think would be valuable for this group who came here to learn about content, learn about all sorts of different information, not just from me, but from you all. If you could add what other tools you think would be effective in the chat while I continue on, that'd be awesome. So think about maybe if you're a student, or if you've been a student recently in the room, think about maybe like an app you might have used for studying, or anything else that you've used professionally. Go ahead and add it in. All right, so we're gonna keep going. Just go back to that chat while you can. So something to realize, we rely so heavily on technology, but analog actually does have its place in the virtual world. And so this is where I want you to actually, you can either toggle between the screen. If you click on my face, if you're on like a phone or tablet, all you have to do is tap on my head and it'll switch it out. Or on your computer, you should be able to switch between speaker view and see me. But there's some things I prepared ahead of time. So analog, you can have these nice little thank yous when you feel like you're screwing up or your mouse doesn't work. You can just kind of put it on screen and you get some smiles and you feel like there's people in the room that care about you. So that helps. Another one is whiteboards or flip charts. I don't have a flip chart because I did not grab that in March, but I got a whiteboard here. So I'm going to go through a little equation for you. I have 10%, 35%, 65%, 72, and 10%. So a couple things, I'm going to write it out as we go. Just FYI, with learning retention, 10% will be absorbed if you only use words. So 10% words. It's pretty hard to see. Sorry about that. I will work on that next time. 35% is if you use just visuals. So Nancy would have gleaned 35% versus just 10% of words if there were visuals, but if they were together, she would have taken away 65% of information. Then if you add 72 hours to it, AKA 3 days, and you want everybody to learn things from your sessions, don't expect much because people will only learn at most 10% total retention. I can't spell retention, okay. Total retention after 72 hours, even if you put visuals and words in there. So I just want us to give ourselves a little grace when it comes to doing presentations and realize that analog is your friend as well. All right. Whew, part three. How we doing? Last third, got some thumbs up in there. So I'm going to teach you 2 ways. It's not just thumbs up. So we have thumbdar. So if you're on the screen and visually there, you can do a thumbs up right. And it's like, yeah, I got this. I can power through for 20 minutes. The last bit sounds virtual. Yes, you have me. Halfway on the side would be, I'm still here. I'm willing. If your screen's off, that's perfectly fine. You might be a left side thumb on the side anyway, and that's perfectly fine. Or down as well. This completely sucks. So go ahead and thumbdar it up on screen. No offense taken. I just want you to work out your thumb so you're moving around. Solid. Thank you, Brooke and Carrie, for utilizing the thumb feature on there. There's several different ways to participate without just having your video on. Cool. All right, we're gonna do one more. So that's thumb dar. I'm gonna also show you XY, what is it? XY axis. So I learned this one the other day. Similarly, you're gonna put your hands together where, if you're able to, you're gonna make some sort of, I'll try to scoot backwards, some sort of graph-like chart where you have an x-axis on the bottom with one arm and a y-axis upright. Where's my math people in the room? All right, and then on a scale of however you want to do this, if it's like a total bad facilitation, that's perfectly fine. You can give me a subpar rating. If you feel like this is pretty good and I'm learning something, or if it's like, dang, this is legit, or it's off the charts, and your arm can go an opposite way like Emily's flexible self, then this is another way you can do that. So cool. All right, we did a little stretching. Solid, solid. Okay. Whew. Demoing virtual team building sequencing. So this is the last part I have. What I'm asking for the final round, I put all like the really hands-on stuff at the end because I knew we would be tired. We'd be in a hot room and we want to get the heck out of here, but I appreciate those who stayed on here. Okay, so what I'm looking for is I'm just looking for a couple volunteers. By a couple, I actually mean 5. So not a couple, I need 5 whole volunteers, just so I can see you on my own screen. But let me give you some context first before we get into it. You can decide if you want to volunteer or not. So choice and voice. You've probably heard challenge by choice mentioned several times in an outdoor leadership ropes course experience. I layered this. So in the center here, choice is in the purple, then it kind of goes out to the pink, and then the blue if you're able to see that. And so it's kind of this tree-like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, think of like darts and how that kind of goes up. So how this works is choice and voice. You want to have folks feel like they are making a choice to participate, and whether that participation is having their screen on or doing something verbal and they're able to do it that way, or interacting on chat. Choice and voice, give that to them. And then in the center, if you've ever been to a challenge course experience, you feel comfortable in your little center area, and then you take a step outside of that. That's a step outside your comfort zone. And if you go too far, that's panic zone. So I'm looking for folks who are willing to just take that little step outside for this quick little volunteer scenario. But I also want you to keep in mind, just for anybody that's participating in your team building activities, just the gravity of the situation with COVID. And so especially for this fall, any sort of team building or facilitation you're doing, you really should give an agenda ahead of time. I didn't do that because I didn't know who was coming, but you would know who's coming to your own sessions. And that's just a gentle way to be kind and for people to be able to know what they're kind of getting themselves into. Crafting your questions carefully is another big element to it, not just, how are you doing? Which is so default, but maybe how are you doing specifically today, or something that's not about how you're doing at all. Consider people's identities and a lot of different layers to the situation. And then giving grace for people to choose their own level of comfort, and don't take it personally when people don't have their videos on or are not participating to the same level you were originally hoping for, or they have in the past. And I need to let that go. And once I did that, it felt so much better. And I would encourage a lot of you to do the same in that regard. When you go about team building, you need to build it in a sequenced way. So you want to do solo individual things first. That kind of gets people a little bit more comfortable in sharing just one thing. Then you might do dyads and triads and sharing with just another or another 2, especially that's more introvert friendly, and you're getting a little bit more vulnerable as you go. And then the last layer is small groups that lead to large groups that could lead to the full team or the entire community. And so you want to be thinking of sequencing. You don't in person do human knot all of a sudden, you don't even know a name. First off, you shouldn't do human knot because that's a lot of touching and there's not a lot of consent in that, not a good activity in general, but you shouldn't just throw something in right from the beginning. Consider sequencing. All right, I'm going to show you an example of where you flex and you don't do volunteering just because you have 10 minutes left in content. So if you were willing to volunteer, I thank you so much. Back to thanking you. And I want to get this content in, and I think you all can kind of keep up with trying to envision what it's like. And like I say at the very end, I am more than willing, if you want to talk through different sessions or your community or what goals you have and try to craft a team building session virtually or in person, or I'm willing to facilitate with you or for you. So just know that if these concepts that come later are really confusing, I'm here for you to explain them further if you want to know more. So back to sequencing. You want to do introduction and name games first. Icebreakers would come second, and some sort of stretches would come third, and I can explain those briefly. So a few ways you can do this virtually with names. You can actually change your name on Zoom. So we did this with Slice the other day in our pro staff retreat. We changed it to our nickname that our family gave us. So mine said Sare Bear on it. And it was pretty fun and silly calling people, I guess I won't say people's nicknames in the room that I did know. But anyway, so that's one way you can change it virtually and it makes it really fun. You can add your pronouns in there. You can, if you're gonna do a recording and it's gonna go out publicly, maybe take the last names off for students, just something to think about. You can ask them to delete it momentarily. But there's a lot of different ways you can take what you would have done in person and adapt it. If you close out the screen and spotlight on one person and they teach you your name, my name is Sarah. And the reason why you'll remember my name, because I'm teaching it to you, is because Sarah, bears are in nature. I'm an outdoorsy person. Maybe you'll remember that. That's teach me your name. Names also help turn on the lights. So if you use people's names and they're not really paying attention on this screen, and then all of a sudden you say, Michael Marr, what would you say about the portraiture activity next, or whatever? Michael's totally looking at the screen. But if he was just drifting off into space, that's a great way to bring people back by using names. Icebreakers, you want them to be fun, non-threatening, highly interactive. There's a great book called Serious Fun if you're looking into really how to build good icebreakers. I'll show you this example of the one I was going to do with you all. So people would have had to draw somebody on screen and your pen would not have been lifted, and you have to make one continuous line and draw a portrait of somebody on screen in 30 seconds. And so what that looks like is this beautiful image that I did about a week and a half ago of a coworker that has glasses but looks like an old man with a cane, maybe. And I added 3 words around that person's name. So I know Denise, but this image depicts that Denise might be flexible, willing to stretch our minds, and is a wise person, which actually does represent her. And so you can do this activity with lots of folks, whether you know them or not, and it's really cool to do it with strangers because they're actually able to identify characteristics of you without ever talking to you. So that's one of mine that I've never done before, and I think is an awesome icebreaker in the virtual world. You can also do a fake laughter challenge where you make everybody put their mute off and they just fake laugh and it turns into real laughter, and it's so small and minute, but it's an awesome icebreaker. Stretches, one you can do is mirror. So if you have your video on, you can copy what I'm doing and you're mirroring the person on screen, and it just kind of allows for, if you're able to see this, I have a little butterfly hands going on, moose antlers. But that's another way you can do a stretch, and a stretch is just a mindful pause to be able to get on to your next activities. Team initiatives, that's going to be more problem solving, critical thinking, trust activities, pretty much anything, that's not true. A lot of the things that you can't do in person, you can actually alter to do online, and I'm happy to talk through those with you. But don't forget reflection. If you're doing something that's problem solving and trust-based, you need to tie all that information together and transfer it so people can actually apply what they just learned to their real world experience. So I showed you thumb jar, I showed you the XY axis scale. Popcorn is either I can say, Pamela, Nancy, give me some feedback, or Nancy can then decide maybe Rachel is the next person, and after she's done speaking, can say, all right, Rachel, take it away, popcorn style. The last 2 pieces here, you want to adjourn and celebrate. Don't forget to wrap up your group. And so you want to do exit tickets, you can do warm fuzzies, there's so many different ways to do it, but you need to have some fun way of closure. And after your team building, you need to follow up. So as Nick Epley loves to say, too long didn't read. For people who maybe weren't able to come to the session, send them the recording and give them your best 15 to 20 bullet points of what was really the content of the session. Send that out to everyone though, for whomever wants to look back at it. That keeps your training and your facilitation relevant. So the exit ticket I was going to do that I'll just demo is you have people as they leave the session, they will say their answer to one of these prompts. And so mine was, I hope that those of you who attended this session leave with some newfound ideas and have some instilled confidence and comfort around online engagement and virtual team building. And so if people did that repeatedly, it sounds awesome. It's called New Anthem, and you just hear this like beautiful poem that comes out in different voices on the screen. And after they're done at your team building session, they can just leave or they can stay on and hear the whole effect. So to wrap it up, I do think you can recreate a lot of what you've done in person, but you just got to think of it differently. You got to give yourself time and some grace, and you got to be creative. And so be intentional, make room for play. There's so many technologies out there, so many. And honestly, it's a bit overwhelming and it's a little bit oversaturated, but find what works for you. Sequence to get to success. And from the start, I asked you to holistically absorb, ruthlessly misinterpret, I'm missing that word there, and reflect through riffing off. Connection before content always, and always have an official close. And one thing I would add is this is what's worked for me. And I've worked in experiential ed for, I guess I could say about 13 years, or I've been really attracted to the field. And I have used things that totally sounded odd when it came out of my mouth and I regretted it, or I got feedback from someone that you shouldn't use spirit animal because it's insensitive to Indigenous people. There's so many things that you could do that you took from someone and then you realize it was not good for you, or someone else tells you you probably shouldn't do that again. So please be open to feedback, but do you. And this is the official end. So my suggestion is save the chat before you leave any session that you really love. So you go to the chat and then there's a little area where I think it says save. That can be sent out as well, but I'm getting in the habit of doing that. I know there'll be a Shape attendance link because I've attended so many of these. And I really do want to leave you with, I really am happy to consult. This is my absolute joy and love. I love creating team building sessions and do it all over campus, off campus. I have my own business. No, I don't have a website yet. It's called Nourishing Consulting. And I'm really trying, I want people to feel confident and comfortable facilitating. And so I'm learning this online world just as much, but that's where my true focus is right now. So I'm also available to hire, yes. Anyway, and questions. So I will leave you at this. This is called the official end, and you should always give time at the end of your session if you're willing to stay on and let people have questions, follow up, but you want to honor people's time. Looking at the clock, I think I did pretty darn good. Okay, I'll turn it back over.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, I cannot think of a better way to wrap up Shape the Trainer. This was absolutely amazing. I have a request. I'm wondering if you can go back to the exit ticket prompts. And as folks are leaving this room, maybe just pop in the chat what you are, what you believe, what you will, and make a commitment from this training today. Sarah, thank you so much. We're happy to stay around for a few minutes to answer any questions. Really, really grateful. Please make sure to send out that attendance link or to fill out the attendance link. Rachel put it in the chat recently and can put it in again, and we will get you that slide deck ASAP. Sarah, thank you so much.
Whew, yeah, thank you all. Thank you all.
Awesome. Oh, this is great. I will build these tools into my virtual world. I believe that I can figure out new technologies and still have fun virtually. I am excited for fall training. I believe in great training. I hope everyone stays healthy and believe we will soon see each other again face to face. These are so great. Thanks, everyone.